Hi, friends. Good evening. It's Angela with Wild Violets Art. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight, I'm super excited about the Simply Zinnia Bundle or the Flowering Zinnia Sweet Collection that is coming available March 5th with the newest online exclusive. So Stampin' Up! Has changed things up a bit. Their annual catalog ends in April, and then starts again in May. Their ends in May, and their mini catalogs end in April instead of going all the way through June and then starting up again in July. And then intermittently throughout the year, they are adding online exclusives. So there are items that won't be in the catalog, but they're available online. There's also items, which I'm really happy to say, that you may have had in the mini catalog before, and they've left them available online so that they don't have to print that information in the catalog. So the best thing to do is go to Stampin' Up's website and just type in online exclusive, or they have categories in the top left-hand corner of their website that'll help you find those online exclusives. Now, the most exciting part about being a demonstrator like myself is that I get to purchase in advance of when they're released these exclusive items, either from the mini catalog, annual catalogs, celebration, or even the online exclusive. So starting earlier this month, here in February, I was able to purchase this Simply Zinnia's collection, sweet collection, and it's just stunning. Now there's a lot of bright colors going on, which is not my thing, but I'm going to show you how I toned it down a little bit and made it something that I'm really happy with. So let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, these are the two flowers I'm going to make tonight, or not flowers, the cards that I'm going to make tonight. And so we'll get to that here in just a minute. We'll put those aside. But this Simply Zinnia, I don't know if you remember or saw pictures, but I loved the zinnias that were in my garden. And I was really sad because sometimes they would seed themselves back and I added seeds. But they never really came back as much as when I first bought the house. And they were brilliant and beautiful. And so I really have an affection for zinnias, and I've discovered flowers later in life. I didn't really know that there was more than just petunias and pansies because I grew up in Southern California. I worked for developers. There just wasn't a huge number of flowers that were available. But I lived in Washington State for about 12 years, and I learned about perennials and all the flowers that they have then. And then also things like zinnias, cutting flowers. They're just amazing and they're so beautiful. And I had a bird and butterfly habitat in my backyard. And so I was able to make sure that they always had something to eat. And the butterflies loved zinnias just to land on and rest. They pretty much ate other things, but the birds loved them, and I would leave them dry because actually the butterflies would sometimes create their little cocoon. I don't remember what it's called, but anyway, underneath the leaves. So it was really good. I was really careful about cutting them down. And so I made sure that they stuck around and were really beautiful. Okay. So as you can tell, there's these two images here, the leaf, 3 sentiments, some little stars. Those little zinnia centers have little stars in the middle. And then here's the dies. So you can see there's these open dies that match the really pretty images, but there's also these individual dies that you can create 3D flowers. And I don't know if you know me at all, but my thing is 3D flowers. So I've just started playing with it. I've really played more with the paper, a little bit with the dies, and I'm looking forward to playing with these images. I'm going to do some watercoloring, and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do for my class. So be sure to keep watching for sneak peeks. So part of this really beautiful sweet collection is the 3D embossing flower, the Zinnia 3D. It's really beautiful. And we'll show more about that in a minute. And then it's got these really beautiful sequins. So you can tell they're just super sparkly and great bright colors. And then this paper is just amazing. So, you know, this one's always my favorite. But there's some really beautiful ways that you can use this paper, even though it seems really bright. Like these are so easy to fussy cut. This is the back side, so you can just tell that each one of these, they're all double-sided and really beautiful. So, and then also available, not part of the sweet collection, but they have this really beautiful sparkly paper that matches this Zinnia set. So there's just lots to be done with it. And so let's show you a little bit more. So one of the things that I loved about Zinnias, whereas before I always thought they were super bright, I found out there's not blue ones. It's just false advertising. You have to watch. I tell you, you can't always find what's really actually out there. But like these are Queen Lime. They have like this one's a pink with a lime center. This one's pretty close to kind of the images that they have. But there is a farm that I have been following now for about 5 or 6 years, and it's called Floret Farm. And they have exquisite zinnia colors that are actually more peach, a little bit of a light lavender, actually a little bit of gray, and they're just gorgeous. And if you look at them, they look a lot like dahlias. So just, I want you to kind of check out all of this imagery. Aren't these beautiful? And this is more my color scheme. I don't mind some brights, but I definitely tend towards more of the pastels. Now, when I was in California, my garden was mostly purples and whites. I had a little bit of pink, a little bit of peach, and a little bit of orange. I had some beautiful canna lilies that were more brilliant. But I just love the color of all these beautiful zinnias. So I have actually ordered Precious Metals, or no, Little Flower Girl and Dawn Creek Blush. So I'm going to have a couple of collections. Hopefully they'll grow nicely in my yard. We'll see. They do need a lot of sun and heat, but I wasn't on here to show you about planting. Okay. So I played a little bit with the paper, and so this is just a really simple card that you just stamp the top of it. It's got the little white strip at the top, or you can just, and then I made a couple of strips of the sparkly paper, so you can see it just coordinates really nicely. And then this one, I had some fussy cut flowers that I just love. So one of these sheets, let me just show you. I mean, you can fussy cut this one, or this one, but there's just so many options of cutting them out. They're really beautiful. So, but, so I fussy cut them, added a ribbon, a little strip of designer series paper, and then a little sentiment. It's just so sweet. And then here's the embossing paper, or the embossing folder. So I made 2 different cards with the embossing folder, and one is flipped over and the other one is the this side up is the way it's normally, but I turned this one over. And so you can do it any way you want to, but you can just tell how exquisite that embossing folder is. Now this one is the 3D dies, and doesn't it just make a beautiful flower? And of course this is more in the peach colors that I tend to gravitate towards, and it's so pretty. And I just layered a little bit of the brighter green with white so that it coordinates. And this one I just used a little bit more of that paper inside, so a really pretty card. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so this one I am using the brighter paper, and like I said, it's a little bit too bright for me. So to me, the best way to tone that down is to use a little bit of vellum. So this vellum, I went ahead and had it embossed with the embossing folder so you can see all the beautiful detail. And that way, when I put it over, it's not quite so intense for me. And that gives a really beautiful look for the card. So you can see I layered it with another color just to bring out some of the dark colors in the flowers. And then just added it to the envelope because, you know, it's still really pretty. But I like a little bit more of a muted color palette. Okay, so this one's super easy. I've already fussy cut the flowers, which for some people is very annoying, but if you've got some time on your hands, you're watching a TV show or watching something with your husband or whatever, you can just sit there and quietly cut away, and it works really well. Okay, so for this one, I used some of the Berry Bliss, and this, you know, this is an A2 card, and I am just adding a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece of cardstock, and it just leaves a little bit of it, like 1/8 of an inch around the edges. Actually, it ends up being about 16ths of an inch. So it just leaves a tiny little border. And then I'm going to put this paper on top. And again, it's 1/8 of an inch smaller. So this is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And it just leaves this really nice border around the edge. Okay, so we're going to use glue dots to adhere this vellum. And just adding these to my card front. And really, because there's so much going on with the vellum, it doesn't really matter because I don't think it's going to be that noticeable. Normally, I'm a little more strategic about where I put my glue dots. But because it's so busy, the vellum is so busy, I don't think it's going to be that noticeable. Okay, so this is the same size as my designer series paper. So it's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I'll just add a couple more glue dots in the corners to keep it down. The embossing folder, the 3D, just really, you have to be careful with it because I did notice that it does tend to tear the vellum a little bit. Like here's a spot that it just kind of tears it along where it embossed because it's 3D and it really lifts up the image. Okay. So, oops, I did it again. You know, I did this the last time as well. I need to pull it away because I need to add this ribbon, strip of ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some tearing tape. You get to watch me make mistakes. And I'm just going to add this down here at the bottom. And I'm going to wrap it around so it has something for the ribbon to hold on to. And then we'll glue this corner down. I'm going to trim this a little bit because it's just a smidge long because I'm doing this after the effect. And then I'm going to put this little strip, same thing. Yeah, I just glued up. Looks like I tore off a little bit of the vellum. It is a little bit fragile because of the embossing folder. Okay, that wouldn't have been so hard if I'd done it right. Okay, so here's the card base. Now we have these really beautiful flowers that I've already cut out. One of them was an edge, and so I don't dismiss those because you can easily tuck those under and still end up with a really beautiful card. So I'm going to overlap, just kind of figure out which way I want the design. And I want this one to be on top. So this one I have to be a little careful because we don't want it to hang over. Okay, so all right, so I'm just going to add a dimensional under each flower. I really did have a lot of fun cutting out all these flowers. Just I think I wanted a little bit more over here, but I need to be careful about the leaves. There we go. And I'm going to put the pink one on top, or the peachy pink one. Okay. And I think I'll add another dimensional just to make sure that this edge stays up. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need a sentiment. And I'm going to use Blackberry Bliss ink. And I'm going to put the sentiment as far to the top as I can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it out. So in case you have fallen in love with this really beautiful paper and sweet collection, and you are not already a demonstrator, you can actually add this to your starter kit, the sweet collection. Just reach out to me and I'll send you the number so that you can add it to your order. But you also get this really great glass mat studio for free. So remember, this is only available until Thursday of this week. So you only have a few more days in case you want to get this glass mat studio. It's just a great workspace, and I've actually stopped using the grid paper because I can clean this up so easily and I don't really need the paper any longer. If I actually am gluing, there's a silicone mat, but even the glue cleans up really nicely off of this. So just something to think about. Okay, so I'm gonna cut along the bottom like I did with this one, and I'm just sending flowers because you don't always have to have thinking of you. So I'm just going to cut along the bottom, and then when I get here, I'm just going to cut at an angle. Get a little bit more of it. And then I'm going to use that same angle and cut this side as well. That pretty? So you don't have to put in every word that is in a greeting. You can cut it down, and then this can be a birthday card, or it can be you can add the thinking of you to the inside, however you want to do it. Okay. All right, now we're going to add the embellishments. And I'm going to use a mix of, or maybe I'll just use the green like I did last time. It's just so cute. This is Parakeet Party, and it's just a bright, really pretty green, just very cheerful. There we go. Pretty. All kinds of sparkles. Just really easy, and just a little bit of fussy cutting. You know, here's the vellum, just really beautiful, and it just makes for a real muted but vibrant card. Okay, for the inside, I'm going to add, I had another piece of this paper, and I'm just going to glue it to the inside, and then put a piece of basic white over the top of it so I can write my greeting. And it doesn't have to be the full 4 inches. It can just be a smaller piece. But again, because it's just so bright, I want to kind of mute that a little bit and still kind of get a bright, cheerful border. So it's just a little border around where I'm going to write my greeting. So there's a few layers in this, but it makes for a really beautiful card. And then I'm just going to glue a little strip of 2 1/4 by 6 inch of the designer series paper to the flap, and then cut the excess off. So I'll do that later. Okay. So that's that card. Now, another way that I've kind of muted the flower or the colors is with this card, where again, I just added borders, mostly white, which kind of just mutes it down a little bit, and a little sentiment with the brighter color around the edge. Okay, so, and then of course for the envelope, I added some of the designer series paper to the flap. So this just, when people get it, it's just so cheerful and really lovely, so I think they will enjoy it. Okay, so again, I'm starting with an A2 card. And this is actually the card that I made for a swap with the Stamp and Share for Leaders here in Minnesota. And I'm pretty excited. I'm already mailed it out, so I'm hoping to get a really nice collection of these cards, or of online exclusive cards from the group. Okay, so start with your A2 card, which is 8.5 by 5.5, and then fold it in half. And then I have a piece of 4 by 6. Now, if you notice those samples that I was showing you, they were all, what did I do with them? Oops. I had all those samples that I was showing you. It's funny how quickly I can misplace stuff. It was all sitting right here. Ah, here we go. So you can see these are all cut to 4 inches by 6 inches. It allows me to have it for a card front. Now, you may not always know which direction you want to do, so you might not want to cut everything into 4 by 6. But it allows you to cut off a little piece that can be used either for the inside, but for this card, I just used it again for the front. For this card, I used the 4 by 5.25 here, and then I put a little piece on the front just to kind of add a little bit of that pop of color to the front as well. So it makes for a really nice card when you're cutting them those sizes. So I'm going to add the Designer Series paper, and this one is really pretty. It's actually a real pretty color, and it's got the real red and the Berry Burst as the color. So another paper saving tip that I use is I like to use, like when I want a little bit more of a border of color, then I'll make 3.5 inch by 4 3/4 inch pieces. And when you're working with a piece of cardstock, you can actually get 5, especially when you're doing like a big swap, you can get 5 of these pieces out of there. And then if you want a layer with 1/8 of an inch more, so this would be 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. Again, you get 5 of these. Now that's as big as you can get 5 of from one piece of cardstock. So it's just a great tip if you're trying to conserve your paper. And when you're making 20 or 40 of a card swap, that's a great way to have the layers, but not feel like you're spending all your money on cardstock layers. I don't know about you, but I have a budget that I have to try to stick to. Make sure my Zinnia embossed layer is going the right direction. And just so you can see the embossing, it's just really pretty. Okay, so for this piece, I'm going to use the Banner Pick-a-Punch, and I'm going to flag one end. And then I have, this is 3/4 of an inch by the 4 inches. So remember, it's the leftover of the 4 by 6. So I just made this 5 1/4, and then this is what was left over. Okay, then this is a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to flag this one. And then I'm going to glue this so that it's staggered. And then my little sentiment, I'm going to stagger again. So we'll cut this down once I have it all glued together, so we know exactly how long it needs to be. So I'm going to line this up with my lines here on my glass mat. And then I'm going to stagger this. And I want this to be perpendicular, or parallel, sorry, parallel to the cardstock that I'm using. All right, and then I've already stamped this little sentiment, thank you so much, and I already flagged it. So this one I'm going to put some big dimensionals on. And then I'm going to stagger it again so it's kind of in a third location. So if you can see what I'm doing, I want none of my flags to just line up, but I want it to look like there's some stepping back. I think that just kind of has a real pretty look. So I'm going to cut off the rest of this. And now I'm going to glue the whole thing to my card front. And I'm going to line up this side with the edge of my white cardstock. Okay. And I'm going to let this side hang over the edge. I just think it's pretty that, you know, you can line one edge up and let the other side hang over. And I think it kind of adds some visual interest. Okay. So these are the flowers, some of them that I cut out. And as you can see, some of them have edges on them because they're from the edge of the paper. And I want to use, this one might be a good one for the inside of my card. So I think I might do that. And then I still have room for my sentiment. Okay, so we'll use that for in there. There's also these other pieces, so I can add more to the inside of my card. Okay, so let's use these. All right, so this one, this pretty little pink one can go right here. We don't want it to be in the way. All right, so I really just need one big dimensional underneath. And before I put it down, I just need to make sure it doesn't go over the edge of my card. I'm going to tuck one of these, the leaf that's cut off, you can see, I'm just going to tuck it under the sentiment in one place and let the other leaf overlap. And then this cute little zinnia, I'm going to just make sure that it doesn't cover up my sentiment. And then this is one of the little buds that I cut out. And I also cut out one of the leaves. So you don't have to, but I just wanted to have an opportunity for people to have a sample that had a little bit of the die cut in it. And there are just so many pretty colors, and I think it just adds a pretty touch to have some die cut along with the fussy cut. So I'm going to add 3 little dimensionals. These are the mini ones, and I cut one in half for the head. And then I'm just going to tuck this up under. Isn't that cute? Okay, so we'll add a mix of the red and the green on this. Doesn't have to all be the same color. I think a mix is a really nice way to add some other elements, some visual interest. And there we go. Whoops, we need to finish the inside. Okay. So let's go ahead and glue this one. You want to be a little sparing on the glue. You'll find that it is very forgiving when you're trying to place things, but it also can squeeze out the edges. This is actually a repeat, so we'll just toss that one. All right. So you don't have to throw away the little edge pieces and fussy cut away, and I just think it just adds a lot of cheerfulness to the card. So again, I'll glue this on to the envelope flap and cut away the excess, and it makes for a really cute envelope to go with your sweet little card. All right, well, this is the Zinnia, the Flowering Zinnia Sweet Collection and Simply Zinnia Bundle, and the 3D embossing folder. And it's just got these great little sentiments and images. And so I'll be showing more as I get closer to my class, but this is actually going to be my upcoming class in March. And we're going to play with this. I don't think that this will be the card that we're going to make, but there may be some that I showed you tonight that we'll be making in the class, and I'll be working with it more. But we'll also make something 3D, because I do love to make 3D boxes or 3D bags. I'm not sure yet, so I'll be playing around with it. So just as a reminder, if you want to add this to your kit, you have until the 29th of February to get the glass mat as well. So you could have the new Zinnia Sweet Collection, and you can have the glass mat if you join my team. I'd really love it if you join me. We have great fun, and we get together online, because my team is back in California. They're actually in Washington. Some of them are also in Georgia. So we've got from west to east coast, and we also have some fun together. And I also give my team members all of my class PDFs for free. So after I'm done with my class, I'll send them to my team, and they can make everything themselves. Or sometimes they'll go ahead and order my kit. It just depends on what they've got going. So anyway, if you are interested, just click on the link that I provided, and I would love to talk more with you. Reach out to me, and I can answer any questions you have. All right. Again, thank you so much for joining me. It's Angela with Wild Violets Art. If you're watching this later on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thank you.